There we go. Goodness gracious. Let's get the Facebook groups in here. Then we can start the show. Spinning wheels. Seems like StreamYard's having a little bit of a funky time today. Still, there we go. Oh, did it go? What's going on?
Yep.
Okay. All right. It didn't take it off my screen there. That's weird. It's StreamYard. What's going on, guys? Well, welcome in. It is July 16th. It's Tuesday evening. It's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell and joined by, as always, on these Tuesday evenings, Carl Dumler. Carl, how you doing? What's good? How you hanging? We're going to be seeing each other in 7 days from now.
I know. We're going to see if we can anger each other enough to push each other off a mountain, but
I mean, honestly, Carl, it's not the pushing off the mountain that you should be worried about. It's how small a two-person tent is. I know you're a smaller guy than I am, but I'm a cuddler. So if it's cold out there, it might be some. Did you ever see the movie Without a Paddle?
Oh yeah.
Back in the day? Okay.
Yeah, that was like our college movie. Was watching that almost once a week. Yeah.
Well, good, man. What's new? How are you doing? You weren't here last week, right? Am I missing? I'm kind of mixing up the dates. I wasn't here last week. We both weren't here last week.
Yeah, we both were gone last week.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, life is good. Just cruising along. It's been really hot here, 105 most days, unfortunately. So you either got to get everything done in the morning or late evening if you want to get anything done outside. But finally have a little weather moving in, get some cool breeze coming through for the next few days. So hopefully I can get out there, get a few more steps in, get ready for our big mountain climb. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, man. I know it's like 1 week until we're actually out there and beginning this journey. So I'm getting a little bit nervous about that, but no, it'll be a good time. And and Broncos football is going to be back too when we get back. That's the other big thing. So it's all good. Life is good.
Life is good. Yeah, I'm debating on if I should bring the fishing rod or not, because you can camp or you can fish right off the Whitney Portal River right there, and also the lake we're going to camp at. But we'll see. I'm debating. We'll see.
Without a paddle, didn't he have like the figure 8 light thing that he did, and then he caught himself a trout?
I think so. I think it's been a bit.
We can just do that. We can do that.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't depend on that for food, but what I am depending on is Papa Bear coming in. Talk about catching fish. Papa Bear for sure out here says, good evening, Broncos Country, Nick, Luke, Carl, obviously, Deacon Scott, GB USA, 12-5, MHH for life, Buckham 3 times, Denver Broncos for life, Knicks for 6, Bo Knows, and Bo Leave. Thank you so much, David. Hope you're doing well. Always appreciate you. Hope you're having a good summer. I know it's been hotter than absolute heck pretty much everywhere the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you're not getting hit with the violent weather or anything like that. And you're doing A-okay. We also got David Carmelo coming in here. Says, do you think the Broncos are currently directionless, as one national writer I respect just said? Well, I'm curious who said that. Hey, I'm not sure who said that. As far as directionless, I guess I'll kick it to Carl. You might sometimes run the same wavelength here, but what do you think? The directionless Broncos?
I don't think it's directionless. I think it's more Broncos finally realized they had to hit the hard reset to get this team going in the right direction. And so, yes, there is a lack of talent throughout the roster. I think the Broncos only had one player on the top 100 for PFF, which was Patrick Surtain, of course. But they got a quarterback this year in the draft, which, I mean, that's one of your biggest pieces that you need to figure out. They started working on the defensive line. Last year, they worked on the offensive line. So they got the trenches that they've been trying to get in the right direction. Doesn't mean that they've got it perfect by any means, but it's going to take time to really rebuild when you decide you've got to do that hard reset. And especially when you've got $85 million in dead money that you've got to take account for. And it's coming from Jarrett Bailey of the Sporting News is the one that wrote that, as David says. So I mean, I can get from the outside perspective. Someone would be like, well, maybe the Broncos reached on Bo Nix. That's showing desperation. They cut a bunch of players that have been stalwarts here, and Justin Simmons and others like that. So I get it in that perspective. But like I said, I think you're really seeing a team that understands, hey, this is where we are. This is what we need to be able to rebuild to get to the place we need to go. And I think the Broncos have made the tough choices, which is great to see, because we've been calling for it for about 5 years now, for them just to say, hey, we've just got to start over. We can't keep doing this like half rebuild, bring in a veteran quarterback and hope that they can maybe get us barely into the playoffs. Like that's not the way to actually get your team to consistently winning. So they're actually making the moves to get back to that kind of place. Whether it works or not, we're going to have to see. But I feel like they've actually made the right decision.
I think the big thing as far as this team having a direction is that you have a no doubt man in charge right now, woman man in charge, but it's Sean Payton's team. And just by having him in control of things right now, you have a direction. Now, will it be the right direction? We'll see. Only time will tell. But as far as directionless, that just seems like a team that doesn't have an identity, doesn't know who's in charge, who they want to be, where they're going. We have a direction. I think Sean Payton has an idea of what this team, what he wants it to look like, how he wants it to operate. And it seems like the ownership group and the coaching staff, obviously, and more, the players are all with Payton. This is going to be Payton's team, his vision, the whole operation. So I would argue it's not directionless now. As somebody, again, back to your hiking metaphors, if you're not paying attention to the map, you can go in a direction. If it's the wrong direction, though, that can be a problem. But I would say that directionless they are not. We'll see if they're on the right path, because that's going to have a lot to do with the quarterback position and if Bo Nix is the guy. But directionless, I would disagree against that. Sean Payton has them pulling the same direction, and they have a plan.
Right. I would say directionless was when Nathaniel Hackett was here, and you didn't know who was actually in charge of the team. You know, you had some following Russell Wilson, you had some trying to follow Hackett, some guys on the defense were doing their own thing, and it just seemed like nobody was able to take charge and say, hey, this is where we're going, follow me. Like you said, Sean Payton, he's one of those guys, like, I'm going to go this direction. If you don't follow me, you're gone. And I think that was a little bit of the Russell Wilson situation of, you know, Russell wants to be Russell. And Payton's like, this doesn't work for me. This is not my offense. This is not how I run things. You know, when he came in and they're asking, hey, are you going to let him keep his office? And he's like, no, he's not going to have an office here. Like, he's going to be down with the other players. Like I said, you finally got a grown up in the room, and you just got to hope that you have the right grown up. And now he's got the right players that are beginning to believe in what he is selling out there. And yeah, Bo Nix, if he's that next piece, that would be huge for this team. You know, if you got the right coach, the right quarterback, you can go a long ways, even if you have average talent on the rest of the roster.
Yeah, for sure. And I would argue maybe last offseason they felt a little directionless. You know, as a team that seemed they were not in Russell Wilson, but they were spending the most free agency dollars ever on a team that seemed pretty devoid of young ascending talent. But this offseason, especially looking at both of them combined, I would say they have a direction right now. So again, we'll see if it's the right direction, but only time will tell on that one. We got our guy David Youngkin coming in, says, evening, everyone. Stidham has been in the league for 4 or 5 years. So if he was any good, he would have been a starting quarterback. I mean, there's probably some truth to that, right? If he was actually going to end up being a franchise caliber quarterback worthy of, you know, going up against Patrick Mahomes, a lot of times those guys come in the league and they show it pretty darn quickly, like, you know, so odds are really, really good that Stidham is not going to be a viable starting quarterback, the answer for the Broncos at the quarterback. But just like, you know, as we argue like a day 3 draft pick at quarterback, we'll let it play out a little bit. You know, things do happen. There are always improbable things. Now, we're not banking on it, but,
right,
you know, we don't want to write them off completely because the future is yet to be written.
Right. Well, you think of guys like Kurt Warner, took a little bit of time to get himself in the right place. Steve Young took some time before he was in the right place. Ryan Tannehill. Not that I'd put him in that level of Kurt Warner or Steve Young, but I mean, you see his first few years with the Dolphins. Yeah. His first few years with the Dolphins looking like he's a complete bust. And then all of a sudden he gets a decent coach going and some things start going in the right direction for him. So it could be that same way with Stidham, where now he's got a consistent coach preaching the same thing over and over to him, getting him in the right play, right time, getting him to an advantageous situation. Maybe you can get a little bit more out of him. I don't think he'll ever be a true like franchise guy by any means, but I mean, he could be a viable starting quarterback that doesn't completely destroy your team. I think that's a possibility. Now we'll have to see, because again, I guess we'll talk. Are we ready to jump into our subject?
I did want to say hello to a few more super chats.
Okay, let's do that, and then we'll come back to this, David, because this is what our topic is tonight, and I'd love to get into that with Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, of course. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in. Of course, always good to see you. Michael says, good evening, Nick, on building the Broncos. Nick and Carl, of course, good to see you. David Carmelo did mention it was Jared Bailey. And, of course, we got our guy Phil McLaughlin saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. I sure hope the direction is up. Yeah, hopefully the direction is up, but regardless, it's forward. So excited for that, and a viable quarterback who won't completely destroy your team. Sounds like a potential bridge, but I mean that's what Denver's paying him, right? You brought him in, especially compared to what the backup bridge quarterback market became this season. Chaos out there for those guys in the open market, but you paid him not a huge contract. He's still here, of course, and if you can get for him being a solid quarterback for where you're at right now with all the dead cap hit stuff, playing maybe a few games with Bo Nix. Obviously, it's better if Bo Nix comes out of the gates, swinging and wins the job. But it's a fine investment, and it sounds like somebody that Sean Payton, Webb, everybody's really excited to have in there.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, thanks there, Scott, for putting it up there. I am the hype man. I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, what you're paying him, he's a Toyota Camry. He can get you from point A to point B. It's not going to be pretty always. It's not going to be the thing that makes everybody turn their heads and say, look at that guy. But he can get the job done. Now your hope above hope is that Bo Nix is the Ferrari and that he's not just the shell of a Ferrari, but actually has the engine, all the bells and whistles in the vehicle. That's what you're hoping for, that he can be that guy. Because obviously you did a first round investment in him, and you've got him for the next 4 years secured contract wise. That's the other thing with Stidham. Like, obviously, if he turns into a great starting quarterback, you're not going to care too much that he's going to have to get paid a lot of money the next year. But still, at the same time, you'd still rather have the cheap guy and him perform at a high level. That's your dream. That's our town just did a play for Willy Wonka, so I'm thinking of the golden ticket. Like, that is the true golden ticket in football today.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, rookie quarterback contract, that's the way to go. We'll see if it works out for Denver. I did want to say hello to Daniel Berry Sports, of course, coming in here. Great to see you. Eric Smith said, I'd say the exact opposite. For the first time in years, we have a clear direction. I agree. Shiloh's in the house. Always good to see you, Shiloh. Says, evening, fellas. Sean has given us no reason not to trust him so far. I'm supporting his current long-term version. The Orleans shift was a team effort and he played a major part. Absolutely, of course. Again, got to have that quarterback, but we're hoping for that for sure. And Doug comes in and says, Sean's only 60. He could coach for another 10 years. Certainly true. We'll see. I think the success of the team is going to have a lot to do with that as well. Zach Powers comes in and says, afternoons, fellas, with the cheers. Always great to see you. And let's get into it here. Talking Jarrett Stidham stat down with Eric Dalala, working for DenverBroncos.com. Broncos current number one on the depth chart. Jarrett Stidham, nothing official. I'm just going off of our lads or whatever, but the incumbent quarterback, I guess the incumbent starter, considering he started the last few games last season, but replacing Russell Wilson, sits down and talks about this season and not giving up the starting job without a fight. He says about the starting gig, obviously that's my goal, but I just keep it day by day. What am I asked to do each and every day? What's the best play I can make in each and every play? What am I asked to do on each and every play? That's literally all I think about. I don't get too far ahead or think things that have happened. I just kind of stay grounded in that day. So Jarrett Stidham, smart guy, very PC answer there. I mean, nothing crazy from him, but hitting it down the fairway, right on the green. Any thoughts on what Stidham had to say in that first bit, just about staying grounded and in the process of the day by day?
No, I think that, like you said, it's a very smart veteran answer. He understands the big thing for any quarterback in the NFL is your ability to stay consistent. I mean, I hate to bring up this name because we've talked about him before, but Drew Lock, like, he had some great games in the NFL. I think it was his rookie season, the Houston game, where I think he had 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards, and everybody was talking about, hey, this we finally got the guy. But then you start looking at the rest of the games and you're kind of going, oh, never mind. Like, he's not as good as what you were hoping for. And so consistency becomes such a huge part in what makes a great quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, game in, game out, you know what you're going to get. Josh Allen's a little bit different because there's some really, really big highs and there are some really lows, but for the most part, the highs outweigh the lows. You think of Joe Burrow, very, very consistent quarterback week in, week out. And so for Jarrett Stidham to win this job, his best way to do that is to prove that he can be the most consistent guy every single practice. Now, maybe he doesn't win every practice at training camp, but he never takes third. He's always number one or number two and always right there, consistently doing what he needs to be doing what the coaches ask him to do. There's a couple quarterbacks out there. I would say Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean Payton are three coaches, offensive minds, that they believe that their scheme and their way of game planning an entire game can win. And it's just telling the quarterback, do what I tell you to do for the most part. Now, there could be some extra little bit of free reign in there depending on the quarterback. But like I said, they believe that much in their scheme. And so if he just says, hey, Jarrett Stidham, I need you to hit this guy at this time in the route because he's going to be wide open. And if Jarrett Stidham can do that on a consistent basis and be trusted, that's how he wins this job.
Yeah, I do think I want to ask you, how close or how much does Jarrett Stidham have to win by to win the starting job out of the gate? Because obviously, ideally for the Broncos, you're getting experience for Bo Nix. You don't want to throw him out there when he's not ready, but with second oldest quarterback drafted in the last decade, maybe ever, one of the older ones. Brandon Weeden was up there. Definitely the most college starts ever. So you do want to get him out there, right? Even though he is going from Pac-12 to NFL, you do want to get him out there. But how much better does Stidham have to be where you just can't even consider that?
I think quite a bit. I really do. I think if it's close, you give it to Bo. Because like I said, you're willing to go through the growing pains because you understand this year you're not doing your team so much as we have to go out there and win every game. Like you're hoping you can make the playoffs, but your greatest success is going to be knowing that you have your quarterback. Like that's going to be the biggest win of the season. Now, usually if your quarterback is proving that means you're winning games. But there's going to be some growing pains, as I see a few people making the comments in the comment section there. But you're willing to deal with that because, again, this is your future. Right now, you're not viewing Jarrett Stidham as your future. So, like I said, I think he does have to win by quite a bit. I think he needs Bo Nix to struggle as things get amped up at training camp and they get into a few more of these 11-on-11 and he throws a few more picks. I think he needs Jarrett Stidham to have some really bad days in training camp.
Yeah. Yeah, I am with you 100%. I think Bo definitely needs the leg up on that because you just have such a bigger benefit of getting him out there and going through those growing pains and understanding. Hopefully you can build a system that is protective enough with weaponry and an offensive line that's protective enough that you're not leaving him out there to dry. I always come back to David Carr, right? I don't think this is going to be a David Carr situation where the Texans' first overall pick just gets obliterated and never really has a chance. I mean, maybe he never would have been fantastic, but that was just a horrific team around him. I don't think it's going to be that bad for Denver this year, especially with Peyton in-house, but Stidham does have a chance, and we're going to start finding out that information tomorrow, obviously with the rookies coming to town, rookies starting rookie training camp here reporting. So that'll be exciting. But Stidham's, had a little bit of leg up too, Carl, this offseason. He's obviously the incumbent quarterback, but he's had a productive offseason and also hosted the passing camp with his fellow quarterbacks and a few pass catchers down in Texas. So I don't know if you know this about Jarrett Stidham. He married well. I think he married the daughter of the owner of the Houston Rockets, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not playing just for the money, right? He might be okay.
Yeah.
But had him down there in Texas, and he's excited for that. And he says, spring has been great. I'm excited for the opportunity, being back for my second year in the offense and being here in Denver. That's all I can ask for is a chance to compete. My focus is to control what I control and kind of let the chips fall where they may. So again, really good answers from Jarrett Stidham, what you'd expect from a professional. But he definitely, I think he understands that this team made such an investment in Bo Nix that it's not probable that Jarrett Stidham wins the job or is the guy long term. But he's believing in himself. He's putting in the work still because you never know. I mean, knock on wood, Nix could have a pinky injury, right? Let's call something minor that just kind of causes him to fall back. Or Stidham comes out guns blazing. But everything he's saying is what you'd expect. Maybe it's a little bit AI generated answer kind of stuff here. Like what would you classical quarterback answer to that? But that's kind of what you want from your quarterback with the investment in him that the Broncos have, as well as having the first round pick breathing down his neck, if not already, right with him.
Right. Well, and I think you take the totality of everything. So his words are great, but if you don't see the actions behind it, it doesn't really matter. I was listening to, since I do counseling as part of my job, I like to listen to other counselors just to get more information and be better at my job. And one of them said, I've stopped so much listening to the words that people speak, and I make them say what actions they've shown. And, those speak a lot louder. And so, you seeing how well he handled the offseason, mini camp, mandatory mini camp, all those kind of different practices that they had, and him showing up and doing well, like that's a great action. Then, like you said, him actually putting on the entire passing camp, like him leading the team in that way, that's leadership. Mm-hmm. And him even being willing to invite the other quarterbacks to come down and be a part of it. I think that's really great leadership. It's showing, hey, I care about this team. I want this team to be successful, whether it's with me, whether it's with Bo Nix. Kind of reminds me of Joe Flacco when they asked him if he was here to help train Drew Lock. He's like, no, it's not my job. That's the coach's job. Like, I get it. I mean, it's enough to do your own job. But at the same time, like these are guys that are going to be working very close together. You want them to have a good relationship. And so, yeah, I do. I think he's done all the right things. We're just going to have to see, does he have enough talent to be able to get him over the top? That's going to be the big question, because, I mean, doing the right thing, being smart, all those things can only get you so far in this league.
Yeah. Got to have the talent as well, but he's saying and doing all the right things. So really do enjoy that. And heck, even though he's been in the league for what would be this 5th year or 5 years in, he believes he still has some growth. He said in the interview, I feel like I still am not even close to my full potential. It's one of those things where getting out there the last 2 weeks was great, and I felt like I was just kind of starting getting back into the rhythm of things. So, again, he's excited. He believes that he has a little bit more, and he's not just going to, give the job to Bo Nix because he's the pick. I mean, he's got pride, and he wants to go out there and give it the best chance he can because he believes in himself, of course. So, excited to see what happens. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, I believe, was a very highly rated dual threat, maybe even quarterback going out before he went to Art Briles Baylor and then transfers out to Auburn later on after Baylor has goes down the wrong end there. But he believes in himself, given the right answers, but he's not just, Bo Nix, we drafted him, obviously he's going to be the guy. No, he's going to make him compete. He's not going to be hostile, but he's not just going to give up either. Yeah,
and that's the way it should be. The best thing for the Broncos is a great competition where all 3 quarterbacks are doing great, because then that helps other players too. Makes the defense actually have to play against good quarterbacks, makes the offense where it can actually function no matter what group is in there. There's something to say about that when you can have backups getting real good reps. The offensive line, having a quarterback that isn't just going to take off running the second the pocket feels a little bit of pressure. Wide receivers that can have a quarterback throwing it to them accurately so they have a chance to catch it. I've been to plenty of training camp practices where it seems like half the passes are just throwaways or completely uncatchable. And it's like, it just seems like such a wasted rep. Like, again, they don't want to throw interceptions and those kind of things. There's times to just throw it away. But there's also some times you got to show I can fit it into a tight window. And so, like I said, best thing for him is to have these quarterbacks all competing at a very high level. And, I'm still hoping Bo Nix wins it just because I think that's what's best for the team. But I don't want to just hand it to him either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. And just talking about that, final quote here from Jarrett Stidham in that says, I don't – wait a second. I have that. It says I don't – God, I pulled it up and now it's gone. He just talks about There we go. We're all battling it out. Competition's great. That's how it should be. Sorry, I got the Sean Payton quotes there. I'm like, that's the wrong one there. So they're going to battle, and Stidham's going to fight, obviously, and I think he's got a chance. We'll see what happens with Bo Nix. Obviously, Nix is going to be the guy. I do think that this Broncos team around the quarterback, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to me right now, until I see them play, is questionable enough that even if Jarrett Stidham starts the first 4 to 6 games this season, eventually it's going to be handed over to Bo Nix. I cannot imagine the Broncos going, 5-1, 6-0, 7-1 with Jarrett Stidham. I just don't know if they have the infrastructure in place, talent-wise around him to do that. So eventually we're going to see Bo Nix. I'd be pretty shocked if not. But Stidham, again, he's going to get a chance to compete. He's the incumbent. He's been in the system for 2 years now, been in the league for a bit, worked with different systems, worked with some pretty good offensive minds as well. So he's going to have a chance. But in the end, what's best for the Broncos, as we said on here, Bo Nix, getting the starting job there, running with it, and finding out what you have there. The larger the sample size, the better. And I don't think, again, the roster is going to be so poor that it would be a David Carr situation.
So just because this has actually happened before, let's say the team is like 5-2. What would you think if, and Jarrett Stidham's the starter. Mm-hmm. What would you think if Sean Payton at that point said, hey, let's get Bo Nix in there?
I mean, it would depend on what it looks like, right? Like if it's like Tim Tebow kind of games where it's like, oh my God, it's absolutely horrific, pull your teeth out, or like Iowa games. Mm-hmm. Right, like the defense and the special teams are doing crazy things, and the quarterback's terrible. Well, then maybe. But if you're 5-2, I think the locker room probably wouldn't want to mess with the juju too much. Odds are, given the talent level of the defense on paper, that is probably the quarterback has something to do with that as well. So you might just kind of ride the hot hand there. But again, it does feel somewhat improbable. Call me a hater, call me a skeptic, whatever. I don't think this team is hoisting any trophies this season, but crazy things happen, man, and there's just so many unknowns. We don't know a lot of the probabilities for these players. I mean, even when you go into the season, you don't know anyway. But especially this Broncos team, the error bars are very wide, so a lot of things can happen with that.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking back to the Jake Plummer, Jay Cutler situation. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember. I think the team was like 7-3 when they made the change to Jay Cutler. And then they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that was it was in Arrowhead, I think. It was like a Thanksgiving game.
Yeah. I don't know. It was, I remember they had a winning record at least when they made the change. And Jake Plummer wasn't having the greatest season ever, but the team was still doing well. So it'd just be interesting to see when and what it would take to make that kind of switch. But no, like I said, I know I've seen people ask us in the comments, who do you think actually wins week 1 starter? If I was a betting man, I would put it on Bo Nix. I think when you're looking at a team that they put in a lot of homework on the quarterbacks this offseason. They went to every single opportunity they could to meet with these quarterbacks. They did it. And Bo Nix has been one of their top guys for a long time. They've loved him. I mean, I've never heard Sean Payton quite talk about somebody like that since Drew Brees.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be Drew Brees. I'm just saying just the hype that he gives towards Bo Nix and what he brings to the table. I think he's going to want to prove, hey, I'm right. Part of what you get with Sean Payton is that ego, the pride, whatever you want to call it, confidence. Obviously, you hope it's all going to end up being right. But I think that's going to be one thing. He wants to go out there and show, hey, we got this whole system. We got this whole process that we did completely right that other people got wrong. Yes, we took the 6th quarterback, but we got the best of the group. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but if he can actually go out there and prove that, I mean, obviously that's going to be huge. So I think that pride is going to make him really want to give every opportunity for Bo Nix to be that week 1 starter.
Yeah, and an interesting one here from David. I'm curious what you think about this. Says, David Bishop, good to see you, David. He says, that would be the worst case scenario to me is if Stidham starts and we win a bunch of games. Got to get the new kid in there. I think that's interesting, right? I mean, I guess like long term, you want to see what the kid has, right? Bo Nix. he's still a kid, right? He's 24, 25. But that is, he's the young gun, right? And, but still, I mean, if you're winning games, this team has been so hungry. It's about winning games at the end of the day. Now, maybe with Jarrett Stidham, it's kind of finite, right? There's a ceiling to it. Let's say he ends up being really good this year, then it's the contract negotiation in the offseason. And what does that even look like after the first round investment? But I don't think that's worst case scenario, David. I mean, worst case scenario is Bo Nix goes out there and he is just good enough to give you hope, right? Like it's like, oh, maybe. So, but you don't have direction. And it's like multiple years down the drain. It's like, oh man, if he just did this, this, and this, if he stopped throwing picks, if he stopped getting injured, if he stopped taking sacks, you know, you convince yourself over and over and over again. You got those orange colored sunglasses on. I think that's probably the worst case. But Stidham coming in and winning games, it's been so hard to win games. I can't say that's worst case scenario.
Right. Well, and to me, that reflects well on the rest of the roster. It means some other guys took some major steps up. You know, Nick Bonito became a true game wrecker as a pass rusher. Marvin Mims became a game changer on offense, not just on special teams. Your offensive line is looking great. You've got a great running game going. Means some other guys on defense. Your defensive line is now holding up against the run game and getting some pressure on the quarterback. You've maybe found a number 2 cornerback that you can trust out there. So, like I said, I don't think that's worst case scenario because it just shows the overall talent on the team is better than a lot of people gave it credit for. And then that means, let's say Bo Nix does sit on the bench all offseason or all season. Well, it means that he's coming into a better roster next year than people thought. It means he's got some actual talent around him that he can build with. And it just means, hey, Jarrett Stidham was able to handle himself, and maybe you go get yourself a comp pick when he goes and signs somewhere else. Or maybe you can bring him back, but still with the idea of, hey, you're going to have to compete for your job because we still have Bo Nix. Depends on how good he would do, obviously. So, like I said, I don't think that's worst case scenario just because of what it means for the rest of the roster.
Breaking news.
Nope.
First, we got Todd for $10, but breaking news. Quinn Meinerz gets a contract.
Woo!
Broncos guard Quinn Meinerz of Adam Schefter. Reports started 39 games since Denver selected him out of Wisconsin Whitewater. Signs a 4-year, $80 million contract extension that includes $45 million guaranteed and ties him to the team through the 2028 season. So big news there. Carl, I'm going to dip out for 1 second and give Chad a quick call, but just because I typically do that a lot for him when stuff like this happens. But go ahead. Oh, I put myself out. What am I doing?
Oh. Okay, now I can talk here. No, that's great news for the Broncos. I think he is one of the 2 true players that I would be willing to give a long time contract. And as Scott says, so in actuality, a 2-year, $45 million deal with 2 club options. You know, you have to remember, overall money is rarely what a player actually gets. Either they're redoing the deal after 3 years and that 4th year is completely thrown out, or the player's being cut because there's not as much guaranteed money at that point. But still, I'm glad that he's locked up. He's been one of the true consistent players for the Broncos, has a chance to be a long-term answer for the Broncos. And yeah, this could tick off a player like Courtland Sutton, who is looking for money and now watches $45 million go to another player when he's only asking for a few $1 million raise. Mostly he's asking for more guaranteed money. That's the main thing that he's looking for. But when you get into the non-guaranteed money, so like I said, I think this is great for the Broncos. I think it's great for Quinn Meinerz. I do think he is a top 5, top 7 guard in football and seems to be only getting better with each year. You know, you have to remember he came in from
Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yeah, Clearwater, Wisconsin. A Division III school, and so for him to now be at the level that he is, and like I said, he's only ascending. I've only seen this guy getting better year after year. I think this is a great thing for the Broncos, and just having that offensive line locked up when you've got a young quarterback. I would rather invest in the offensive line than I would the wide receivers. That's just me. Like, I'm not saying ignore the wide receiver position, But I've seen like some people talking about trading for Brandon Ayuk and giving him a $30 million contract. And I love Brandon Ayuk. And I think he would be great for Bo Nix. But I also don't want to give up that first round pick when it could be a top 10 pick next year. That's kind of my main thing of not trading for him in that situation. So great to see. Glad for the young kid. I remember showing my son the videos of his training in the off season, when it was the stick bug year and nobody could get together. And he went to his uncle's camp up in Canada and he was like knocking trees over or, lifting up trees to do some curls or bench press or anything like that. Stuff like that always just makes me smile because it makes me think of, growing up as a farm kid, throwing hay bales and running from cows to see how fast you can be. Those kind of things. It always sticks out to me that I love that. So, like I said, good deal for the Broncos. Good deal for Quinn Meinerz. Really glad they got this done now.
Yeah, that is awesome. And just looking at the contracts overall, there are 5 current interior offensive linemen who make $20 million plus a year, and this would have him tied for the third contract. So you have Landon Dickerson, just got paid this year from the Eagles, $21 million. You got Chris Lindstrom, paid last offseason, $20.5. Robert Hunt this offseason got paid $20, and Quentin Nelson got paid $22 off seasons ago. So puts him in top 5 interior offensive line market there for Quinn Meinerz, or for the guard market, excuse me, not interior offensive line. I don't know if there are any centers who get paid just as much there, but really good for him. And again, Denver not paying many. Yeah, I didn't think there was actually any centers that are getting paid that much. Frank Ragnar's only making $13.5 million. So center market, you do not pay centers a lot of money, folks. But really good for Quinn Meinerz. And who else is Denver going to pay, right? I mean, you still have multiple years of control left for Patrick Surtain. He's playing a position that tends to be a little bit more fickle and finicky with injuries and that age drop off. And you still have the 5th-year option for him, year 4, 5th-year option, and the tag where Quinn Meinerz is free agent after this upcoming offseason. Well, would have been. And other than that, I mean, Cortland Sutton question mark coming up here. I mean, you just don't have a lot of guys to pay. And after the interior offensive line, I mean, 2 of the top guys just got paid this offseason, more contracts. Robert Hunt, he's better than Robert Hunt. He just got $20 million a year on the open market. So good for Denver to get this done. Money was not really going to be an issue for them. I am curious if this is an extension for them as well. I haven't seen how the contract actually works out. So is he still going to have that 4th year and then it kicks in, or is that going to be new money this season? We'll see how that comes when we get more information on the deal. But good for the Broncos to get him locked up and get another piece of this offensive line locked up. And Denver has to have one of the most highly paid offensive lines in football right now. I mean, Garrett Buss is getting paid a huge money. You paid Powers a lot. You're paying McGlinchey a lot. And now Meinerz, rookie quarterback contract. You can do a lot of stuff like that. But going to have to figure out some younger guys on that offensive line to step up here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's definitely an expensive unit right now. When, like I said, unfortunately, they've had to bring in veterans to make this work. You've had Quinn Meinerz be one of the few draft picks that's worked out for you. Center, you're going to hope one of those guys can emerge to be a quality starter for you that you're not going to have to pay big money to for this offseason. They're pretty much banking on that just because they haven't signed somebody to a big contract at the center position. Mm-hmm. And probably good chance Garrett Buss probably last year with the Broncos.
Yep.
Have to see.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben Powers, I mean, he did get that big contract, so he might be here for another year beyond this one, but decent chance you're probably looking for somebody that can replace him coming up. Mike McGlinchey as well. But like I said, locking up probably your best offensive lineman and the guy that's homegrown, all those kind of things, I think that's great for the locker room. I think he's been great in the locker room as well. Yeah. And I think it just, hopefully, other than Cortland Sutton, makes everybody else in the team happy to see him get that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, without a doubt. And really awesome to see Quinn Meinerz get that. Again, he's been probably one of the best interviews of this Broncos team for a few years now. I mean, pretty jovial spirit, but plays with a mean effort. And now that he's gotten paid excited to see the recognition come for him as well. A lot of times, especially for offensive linemen, not the glitziest position. It's not until they get paid, unless they're a highly drafted player, because then there's the whole draft process that really elevates their profile and their Q rating. But now that Quinn Meinerz has gotten paid, maybe going to get a lot more recognition. Obviously, they would still take the Broncos becoming a pretty good team and a good offense to get some of that recognition as well, because does your average NFL fan know Robert Hunt, even though he got paid $20 million a year? Probably not. University of Louisiana, I think, right? Played for the Dolphins for a number of years there. But really good for Quinn Meinerz, and really happy to see the Broncos invest in him and keep him in here, and not even play any games around him. Not going to hit free agency. We value you. Sean Payton's always really valued the interior offensive line as well. So getting a guy that's probably your best offensive lineman locked up for the next few years and for his prime as well. Maybe not your most valuable because he's still a guard, not a tackle, but that's your best offensive lineman locked up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, who is the most well-known guard in football right now?
It is probably Zach Martin.
Probably, yeah. I mean, he's been in the league for a long time. And he was a first-round pick.
They always talk about the offensive line as well.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that's about the only name I can really, right off the top of my head, be like, yep, that guy's for sure known around the league. I think Quinn Meinerz is getting helped a little bit. Yeah, Quentin Nelson's another one because he was a high draft pick.
6 overall. But
even there, like, he's fallen off because of injuries. So I think he's in some ways gotten a lot of recognition because he was a first-round pick. And he did start off his career looking really good. I just those injuries have really kind of taken away what could have been I'm not sure a Hall of Fame, but he was getting towards that direction if he had another few great years in the league.
Yeah. I mean, really excited to see him again. We're just getting for his prime as well. So awesome to see that. And we kept going, valuable Broncos here. Broncos most likely to make Pro Bowl, ascending talent. After Surtain, it's been Meinerz. Really happy to see Meinerz get this contract. Well deserved. I mean, Division III, Wisconsin Whitewater. I think there were stories that maybe you even shared it, Carl, about people around the league kind of laughing at the Broncos when they took Meinerz with the the 95th pick, the 90th pick, something third round in that 2021 draft class. People thought that was a silly pick by George Paton, the Broncos, and right now ends up probably being the best. I mean, Jonathan Cooper, you got a starting edge in the 7th round, but I mean, Quinn Meinerz is a better guard than Cooper is an edge. So Jonathan Cooper's not going to get 4-year, $80 million on the open market. So
yeah,
really,
he was taken 98th overall.
98th. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, heck of a get for the Broncos. And it's one reason also I'm not a big proponent of taking interior offensive line first-round picks. You can find some damn good starters round 2, 3, 4. No guarantees, but there's no guarantee in the first round either. So happy for Meinerz, happy for the Broncos to get him locked up. How the offensive line budget is going to shake out now. I mean, do you think this makes it less likely that Bowles is back? Because there's only so much money to give out.
Well, and this is, again, if Bo Nix wins the job, you've got a little bit more freedom with the salary cap of what you can do. You can overpay a few people. I mean, I hate to bring up Russell Wilson, but when he was with the Seahawks on his rookie contract, like, they made some really dumb moves during that time. I'm trying to remember, they traded for a tight end. I think they traded a first-round pick for a tight end. There's a couple other moves they made. I can't remember, but they were just kind of throwing funny money out there because they just had this perfect lottery ticket that was making $1 million a year in Russell Wilson. So I still think good chance Garrett Buss is gone just because he's another one of those players that they've kind of been right on the edge of whether we really like him or not. We like him enough. We're not going to give him away for free, but we don't like him enough that we're not going to at least try to shop him. And those kind of players, I mean, you look at like Jerry Jeudy, he was one that was being shopped there for a while. Justin Simmons was being shopped for a while. The only two players that they've really shopped that are still here are Cortland Sutton and Garrett Buss. And I really do think good chance both those guys are not with the team next year. And I think part of it's going to be they really like their offensive line coach. And I think they're going to really lean into that he can coach up somebody. And then this next draft, it looks like there's a few really good tackles. And if the Broncos have a top 10 pick, it would not surprise me to see them go in that kind of direction of, hey, we're going to get our left tackle to really protect our franchise quarterback. A lot of teams, that's a great move to do. Take your franchise quarterback, take your franchise left tackle, pair them together for their career.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. So excited to see what happens here with the Broncos now that, got Meinerz locked up, and really good piece here. And also, boss man coming in here, Chad Jensen, $20 saying, let's go. Good to see you, Chad. Yeah, really happy to let the not for us, right, Carl? Not let the belly breathe. But for Quinn Meinerz, they had him lose some weight for that Nathaniel Hackett scheme, if we can call it that, and then put it back on and looked a lot better, I think, in year 3 with Sean Payton in that more power inside zone oriented scheme, a lot more duo. So again, really happy for Quinn Meinerz. And Carl, news happens on Tuesday night. I don't know what it is, but maybe not when we're gone. Hopefully nothing world news happens wise. But what's next? Where can the Broncos allocate money next, if anything? I mean, are we done now? I mean, we're probably not going to get many moves, but can it go anywhere else?
I think, Patrick Surtain, I think you have to wait till after this season. Is that right? Or is it only after 2 years?
I think it's after 3 years.
Okay. So, yeah, he can't be done till after this year.
He could be done because he's had 3 years in the league, hasn't he?
Yeah, you're right. Okay. So he could be done. I'm sure the Broncos are talking to. Yeah. I think there's a decent chance they're probably already working on that. They'd rather get him locked up now. And like I said, have him for his true prime as a cornerback, because it does fall off very quickly at the end of that. So I'm really hoping that they can – I do hope that they can get him locked up. It's going to be expensive, but like I said, you've got a rookie quarterback. You can make those kind of moves. This is the time to get aggressive and truly keep the talent that you've got. You've got very little talent, but keep the talent you've got.
Yeah. And a cool story here just about Quinn Meinerz as well from Garofalo, saying that the only reason that Meinerz was brought into the Senior Bowl is because Landon Dickerson had an injury. I don't know if you remember that in the Alabama playoffs. He got injured there down the stretch, and that was coming off of him not having a football season. That 2020 season for Division III football didn't exist, so he had a year without football, like you mentioned, training in the woods. Last minute gets an invite to the Senior Bowl, and now third round top 100 pick and top 3, tied for 3 highest paid guards in the NFL. So awesome story for Quinn Meinerz. Again, always enjoy his interviews. He seems like a fun-loving guy and not somebody I'd want to be on the opposite end of a football field. But really, really do appreciate him, and excited that he's going to be around a little bit more. And I don't know, can we get like a chain for the belly or something? Is that something, or like a gold hula hoop that you can put around it? Like what's some accessories that we can get for for the belly?
I mean, you can get your belly button pierced, so you can have a little
might
bling hanging from it.
Don't let a keep to leave get too close.
Yeah. But we do have Todd coming in saying, I hit submit too soon, showing love for my 2 favorite hosts. That is great to see. Thank you, Todd. Really appreciate that. And especially the kind words there. Means a lot to us. And glad you could join us on a great night where we get to celebrate a big thing for the Broncos that we've been hoping that they would do sooner than later. Because like I said, it only gets more expensive as time goes on. If he has another season like he had last year, I remember one of the few analyst out there that really highlighted him was Baldy. He'd put out his weekly videos of, hey, I want to highlight this certain player. And I love, there's one game, I can't remember which one it was, but he is going, Quinn Meinerz had enough highlights in this one game that most players hope they can get an entire career. And he pancaked like 5 or 6 guys, and all in just that one game, and just the holes that he would open up. Him and Mike McGlinchey, if McGlinchey can be healthy this year, that is a great right side to run behind. I'm really hoping that becomes the identity of the offense this year. That I know Sean Payton wants to pass the ball, but I'm really hoping he leans into that run game as much as possible. And we got Michael Ronquillo saying, I nailed the Broncos signing right guard Quinn Meinerz before the NFL season. There you go, Michael. You got it. And like I said, I'm glad the Broncos are being proactive. I think in the John Elway era, one of my biggest issues with him was a lot of times he waited till the very last minute to ever get anything done. I think DT was put on the franchise tag for a while. They finally got something done on the final day that you could get a contract done. It was pretty much the same thing with Von Miller. And yes, they got the deals done, but I just felt like he was destroying some relationships there in the process. Yeah. I get sometimes you got to play hardball because they're asking for too much. And I get that that's a great negotiation tactic to say, hey, we'll just play on the franchise tag if that's what we got to do. But if you can get something done, get the player happy, get the franchise happy, I think it's really good in the locker room when another player comes to the negotiating table saying, hey, yep, you guys want to get something done.
And we th Phil coming in here before we wrap up the show saying next Tuesday they'll announce a deal with Sutton and Bulls. Sorry, you guys are going to miss it. That's okay. We'll survive. Or they'll wait until we come back. But probably no news for the Broncos. Again, just waiting to see the structure. Is this an extension? Is this something where he's going to play in that fourth year and then years after that? I doubt that. It's probably ripping up the contract and starting something new this year. But we'll see. And Jacob says he's not happy. I don't know why you're not happy. I really like the Quinn Meinerz, and Denver doesn't have a lot of other valuable assets on their own team to sign right now. That's kind of an effect of the Russell Wilson and Sean Payton trades and some lack of top draft picks and resources. But you hit on Quinn Meinerz. I mean, you're probably not going to be paying Javonte Williams big money. Baron Browning would have to have an unbelievable season to get a huge contract. Meinerz has been steady Eddie and an ascending solid player and brings an identity to the team as well. Again, it still takes a unit for the offensive line, but he's one you can trust in there. Plug him in, you feel good about it. So I'm happy, Jacob, to have him in here. And I was happy we had a good show today. I mean, obviously talked Jarrett Stidham, talked training camp, and then we got the Quinn Meinerz news coming in as well. So a lot of fun. I'm sure Scott and I will talk about that even more tomorrow morning, but you guys can follow Carl and I on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler, MHH. I'm at Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, of course, if you're on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. As that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. And I want to give a shout out to all of our super chat folks coming in today. Michael coming in again saying, great show tonight. Nick and Carl, I'm building the Broncos. Great to see you. Michael came in earlier as well. We got David Neckelrath, Papa Bear, David Carmelo came in a few times, Phil McLaughlin, Todd Ostendorf, of course, and Chad Jensen. So you guys killing it. Click the thumbs up on the way out. Carl, any final thoughts? What's going on? How are we doing? What's happy about that news, man? That's really good Broncos news.
Yeah, no, it is. We've been saying all offseason that the two players that you can look at and say they deserve long-term contracts, they should be part of the franchise plans for the future. If we're talking about earlier about direction of the Broncos, one of those directions includes Quinn Meinerz. Patrick Surtain is that next piece that you've got to get signed to that long-term deal. And if they can get both of those done, I'm not sure that you have to get Patrick Surtain done this offseason. But again, the sooner you can get it done, the more you get that guy locked in, the more all of a sudden there's 10 other cornerbacks that get higher contracts than him next. And so while it feels crazy for Quinn Meinerz to already be the third highest paid guard, at the same time, by next offseason, he might be at like 8th. Just because that's how NFL contracts work. So sometimes it is better just to get it done the earlier than later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm guessing they'll probably wait a year for Surtain just because you still do have 3 years of control versus 1 with Meinerz. But we'll see. Maybe they'll get it done. And you guys got it done today. Appreciate you so much. Again, make sure you're following Carl and I on Twitter. We will see you guys again in 2 weeks. I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. But until then, make sure you are continuing to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.